This sector is now under my control. Stand down and prepare for Vaygr occupation.
Hello everyone, this is Captain Soban. Welcome aboard to Starship Enterprise for another episode of Homeworld FX Galaxy Shipbuilding Series. Okay, so before we start, I will give a quick disclaimer. It is cold outside, fall is finally here. Our dogs love the cold, so they might be barking a lot in this video. Just a heads up, if you hear any barking in the background, that's what's going on. But anyways, in this episode, we are going to be taking a look at all of the Vaygr ships. So I got them all built over here so we can just take a look at them. The Vaygr plays a lot differently than the Hyperspace in this mod. They focus a little bit more on defense and building up their firepower later on in the game, and but basically surviving until late game so they can build their big ships and wipe out the enemy. Where Hyperspace plays a little bit more like standard Homeworld 2. So we'll get more into details and differences between the two races here in a bit. But for now, let's go ahead and take a look at our fighter class ships. So in this mod, the Vaygr can build 4 ships: scouts, assault craft, bombers, and lance fighters. So we'll take a look at the first ship. The first one, obviously, is the scout class. Their primary purpose in the game is to scout out the enemy. They have a large sensor radius that they can use to detect the enemy fleet, or to detect the enemy and then run away whenever they see them, because they do have pretty good movement speed for this mod, so they're definitely really good at the whole scouting thing. They do very little damage, they have very little health, so definitely do not use these guys as a combat vessel. Use them strictly for scouting. This isn't Homeworld 1 where you can build a massive army of scouts and take down heavy cruisers. That doesn't work in this mod. So those are the scout ships. The next one are the assault corvettes, or assault craft, which are the main interceptors that the Hyperspace can build. These guys are a lot slower than the scouts, 460 compared to 560, I believe is what these guys were. Yeah, so they are a lot slower, the slightly more firepower, and a lot more armor. These assault crafts are basically your main. They also cost 280 RUs compared to 150, and you come with 7 compared to 3. So these guys are definitely your main anti-fighter ships. They are designed to go up against enemy fighters, but that's about it. They don't have the firepower to go up against Corvette class ships, and they don't have the survivability to go up anything larger than Corvette class. So what I would normally do is probably keep a couple squadrons of these inside your battle cruisers or your production ships. So if you get hit by a fighter raid, you can quickly launch them and defend that ship before it gets destroyed. Especially if enemies launch bombers against you. Also, one thing I forgot to build.
Production underway.
We'll get those built and we'll take a look at them later. There's always something you forget to build in these building series games or mods. But next one would be your bomber class, which are these over here. Now the bombers are your main anti-capital ship fighter class ships. They are strictly designed to fight any frigate class ship and above, disable their engines, disable whatever, and go up against any type of ship that doesn't have anti-fighter capability that moves slowly. So don't use these against other fighters. It would be 100% useless. Their projectiles are really slow, so that's not going to take down like an assault craft squadron. They'll rip them apart before anything, and yeah, and don't go up against like
Hyperspace platform complete.
Any type of anti-fighter capable ship. They will die. Okay, and our next one, and our next and final fighter for the Vaygr side is the Lance Fighter. And the Lance Fighter basically just has a lance beam that it launches out right here towards the enemy. This is your main anti-Corvette fighter. It doesn't have the speed to keep up with. Well, never mind. It does have the speed to keep up with other fighters, but it doesn't really have the accuracy or the what would you call it? It doesn't really have the accuracy, since it's launching a laser to the enemy to take down other fighters. They can just quickly get out of the way before the laser launches, where assault fighters have very fast kinetic weapons. so they can easily take out fighters with no problem. They just don't have the firepower to take out anything larger than fighters. So lance fighters, definitely use them against other Corvette class ships. In large groups, they might be able to take down frigate class ships that don't specialize against fighters. So like ion cannon frigates and infiltrator frigates, those type of ships. But assault frigates and flak frigates, they will tear these guys apart. And that's all of the different type of fighter class ships the Vaygrs can build. Next, let's move on to Corvettes, which we only have 2 types of Corvettes that the Vaygr build. We have the missile Corvette, which is one of my favorite ships of all time. I actually like the Titan missile Corvette the most, but that's because of my love of Homeworld 1. But any type of like missile-based ship I really enjoy, or any type of ion-based ship. I love those ones as well. That's why Ion Cannon Frigate is my favorite Homeworld ship. But anyways, the missile Corvette is your main Corvette versus Corvette type ship. It has some fast-moving missiles that can track down the enemy. The reason why they're not really good against fighters is because it doesn't actually launch the missiles super quickly, so fighters can easily overwhelm them with numbers. I think it can track down fighters pretty well though, but I don't think I think the amount of missiles it can launch doesn't keep up with the amount of fighters you would have in a squadron. Because most fighters and squadrons in this mod are like 5, 6, 7, sometimes 8, depending on the faction. And if you're launching 2 missiles at a time, that's 4 volleys that for one ship that's going to take to wipe out that fighter squadron. So those fighter squadrons are going to overwhelm them with numbers before they can actually take them out. And then our other, and it also doesn't have the firepower to take down anything larger than Corvettes. So this is mainly, if you have a large enemy of Corvettes coming in, you want to use your missile Corvettes. The other one we have is our laser Corvette, which I love the design of this ship, because it looks like they took the wings of the bomber and converted it to launch lasers instead of, plasma bombs. So this is your main anti-capital ship Corvette class ship. So it is designed to fight fighter or frigates and above that aren't designed to fight strike craft. It can probably take down an assault frigate or flak frigate in large groups, like groups of maybe 5 or more. But if the enemy has more than 1 frigate, it's going to overwhelm them. So this would definitely be designed for kind of like the main bomber. Where you kill infiltrator frigates, marine frigates, destroyers, battle cruisers. Well, maybe not battle cruisers, because battle cruisers have their own anti-fighter defense. But maybe crippling destroyers or battle cruisers, that would probably be a possibility. Or destroyers too, because they have a targetable engine. But yeah, that's what the main focus for the laser Corvette would be. And then after that, we move on to frigate class ships, because that's all the strike craft ships that the Vaygr can build in this mod. So the first one we are looking at is a classic, the Assault Frigate. Now the Assault Frigate has kind of changed a little bit from the Homeworld 2. It's mainly an anti-fighter ship, so it has flak cannons, it's got the very fast concussion missiles that can take down the fighters. But it doesn't quite have the firepower to take down Corvette class ships, especially against like the laser Corvette that we just looked at. It probably won't be able to destroy the laser class, but maybe it would be kind of like an even match, because the laser Corvette focuses on anti-capital ship, where the assault frigate focuses on anti-fighter. So it might be more of an even matchup than a like clear victory type matchup, but I probably wouldn't put these against Corvettes. I would focus on using like fighters. Against missile Corvettes it would probably work, or any type of Corvette that doesn't focus on capital ships, because this is your main anti-strike craft frigate. But I would probably still escort it with like with these guys over here, the assault Corvette or assault crafts, or maybe missile Corvettes. I don't know. The point is, this guy is good against fighters. It's okay against Corvettes, but don't put it against anything bigger than a Corvette class ship. And it doesn't have the firepower to take down like ion cannon frigates or destroyers or stuff like that. It will get destroyed. I think that's the main point I was trying to make. I was kind of going in circles with that conversation, so I apologize about that. So next one we have is the Heavy Missile Frigate, which again, you guys can see the price of everything over here. The Heavy Missile Frigate is your main frigate versus frigate combat ship. It's like the Ion Cannon frigate. It is designed to go up against other frigates, but in large groups it can probably take down a destroyer, although that's kind of iffy because destroyers are designed to kill other frigates. So again, that's kind of the situation with the Assault Frigate versus Corvettes. It's an okay matchup, but it can go either way. So, but your Heavy Missile Frigate is your main anti-frigate class ships. It is designed to go against other frigates. It's not really designed to go against capital ships or slower moving targets because it has larger, slower missiles than the Assault Frigate has, so it's not going to be able to track fighters and Corvettes that well. It'll end up easily overwhelming them. Okay, and the
Roger.
third frigate we have available is probably one of my favorite Vaygr frigates in this mod. Actually, frigates in general. The Spear Frigate. This is a frigate that basically has a built-in Trinity cannon in the front, and it uses it to snipe enemies from long distance. It is awesome. It is really powerful against other frigate class ships, but it is more designed to fight capital ships from afar because it's more of a long-range support frigate. It supports the fleet from afar because it's like an Ion Cannon frigate. It's got this powerful weapon, but it doesn't have any ways to protect it against incoming attack. So these guys would probably be your best bet to take down like destroyer classes. In large groups, it can take down a battle cruiser, because I'll explain that more when we actually get to the battle cruiser when we get to that point. But it is more designed to fight large, slow-moving ships. So like attacking like carriers from a long distance where, you know, the carrier can't really attack back and it doesn't have strike craft or whatnot to actually, you know, fight back, or like destroyers and taking care of them from a distance where the destroyers can't actually use their guns to attack it. That's pretty much what the main point of this ship is provide long-range artillery support to the main fleet. Now the next one, which is not you, I did not bring down here. Whoa, it's over here.
Ready.
Well, I'll go ahead and move it over here.
En route.
But the next frigate is this one, the Electronic Warfare Frigate, or the EW Frigate. Now this frigate has no weapons of its own whatsoever. Instead, what it does is it provides a debuff for all the enemies that are around it. It prevents enemies from repairing their own ships, so they can't heal themselves over time. It prevents the enemy from deploying mine-laying ships. It also prevents the enemy from entering and exiting hyperspace, which is actually pretty cool. And I believe it reduces the enemy's capturing speed with their marine frigates or infiltrator frigates or salvage corvettes or whatever they're using. So you have more time to destroy the invaders before they take over your ship. So very good. It is also pretty expensive at 800 RUs, but if you need like some sort of advantage on the enemy, this guy will definitely give you some sort of edge. The enemy also tends to target these guys pretty easily, which makes sense. If I saw them in a player using this, I would probably target these guys as well. So you do want to make sure you have some sort of defense for these guys, because again, they have no weapons. They can't defend themselves. So you want them to either be with the fleet or have some sort of escort to protect them. And the last but not least frigate is the all-important Infiltrator Frigate. If you guys have ever played Homeworld 2, you know exactly what this frigate does. It boards the enemy vessel and tries to take it over. And if they can take over all of the decks before the ship gets destroyed, you get the ship. Now, one thing in this mod that the Infiltrator Frigate does get is it has a built-in cloak generator, which you can use to kind of like hide them in an area like an asteroid belt and then just bombard the enemy with a bunch of Infiltrator Frigates. So that is one thing that the Vaygr can do. And it's one thing to definitely keep an eye on. I, for one, am really bad when it comes to looking out for frigates that are able to capture me, I think a lot of that is because the original AI in Homeworld 1 was really dumb, so they never used salvage corvettes, they never used infiltrator frigates, unless you were playing like the campaign or something. So I never really got into the mentality of keeping an eye on these guys that would take over your ships, because I just never thought of it. Whenever I used to play, I always played a skirmish, and since the AI never used that tactic, I never thought of it. So I tend to fall for the whole
disengaged.
get like 5 infiltrator frigates, hide them somewhere, and then bombard the enemy and capture it tactic. I fall for that all the time. But anyways, that is all of the frigates that the Vaygr can build. Next, we'll look at super capital ships, which for the Vaygr, there's only 2. You got your classic destroyer. This is your main anti-frigate super capital ship. It has a dual heavy kinetic turret on top, dual heavy kinetic turret on bottom, and it's got the dual fusion missile launchers on the side, and that's what it uses to attack. Now again, all of these turrets are really slow, and the missiles are very slow moving because they're very powerful. So it is very vulnerable to fast moving targets like fighters and corvettes. So that's just one thing that just have to remember, and also can get his engines disabled, so you can use that as a tactic to kind of keep it away from the main battle if you don't have the firepower to actually take care of it. And now the last super capital ship is the battlecruiser, which this hasn't really changed much from Homeworld 2. It's got the giant Trinity cannon in the front, the heavy missile launcher on top, the defensive lancer turrets on the side. It's got 4 of them. And it's got a docking bay for fighters and corvettes, and so you can launch it whenever you're in trouble, or dock them in to get refueled and replenished, and so they can help with the battle that's going on. Now, one thing that I have learned about this ship, fighting against it in the campaign, the skirmish campaign that we have going on, and the other videos that I've done on the channel. The Trinity cannon, as powerful as it is, it has a very slow reload time. Same with the heavy missile launcher, even though I think this is a little bit... No, I think the Trinity cannon's faster than the heavy missile launcher. This is one big disadvantage that this battlecruiser has, and so you can easily actually overwhelm it with a large group of frigates. Now, the frigates are going to die. Like, they can easily be one-shotted by the Trinity cannon, but since it has such a low reload time, you can, if you have like 20-30 frigates, like 30 heavy missile frigates, you can easily overwhelm the battlecruiser, since it can only kill 1 at a time. Now, I think that's a flaw in the way Homeworld 2 works. I think it's been actually adjusted a little bit in this mod, but in Homeworld 2, once the battlecruiser or destroyer killed its target, its missiles would get destroyed instantly because they wouldn't have a target to shoot. They wouldn't actually, like in Homeworld 1 and Homeworld Cataclysm, once the target is destroyed, the missile stays alive and redirects itself to a different enemy, and then runs into that enemy. Where in Homeworld 2 that doesn't happen. It just, once it gets destroyed, like if it launches its missiles, it get like here, the Trinity cannon, it destroys the frigate, then the missiles just explode. They don't be like, oh, there's another ship here, let's just redirect our fire. Nope, it actually has to completely reload and relaunch the missiles. So that is one major downside to the battlecruiser. It is very powerful, especially when it comes against large capital ships, but large groups of small ships, it struggles. So that's a little advice for you guys. They're going up against these battlecruisers and struggling. Okay, so next let's look at the production level ships.
Reporting.
We have the carrier class. Now, the one advantage of this team is their carriers are very cheap and they build very quickly. So I think they only cost like, where is, oh yeah, my mothership's up here.
Responding.
1500 RUs. That is extremely cheap. It is much cheaper than a destroyer, and it's like 2 frigates. So these things build very quickly. The one main reason why is because of their limited production level capabilities. The carriers can only build fighters and corvettes, but you can upgrade it to get the advanced production facility, which will allow you to build frigates, but that disables the fighter and corvette production capability, which is what I did on this frigate, or this carrier. So this carrier can build all of the frigates, but it can't build fighters and corvettes anymore, except for scouts. And there's a reason why. I'll get that in a moment. So that's something to do. Keep in mind with the Vaygrs, they are limited on their production capabilities. And there's something else that they do, but I'll get that here in a minute.
Catch you on the inward bounder.
Actually, I could talk about it right now because the next one up is the mothership, because I don't think there's anything else I can really talk about the carrier. You can only build fighters, corvettes. You can always build your platforms. You can call in the shipyard if you really needed to. You can build your utilities, which I actually haven't gone through yet. You can upgrade to get a long-range missile array, which allows it to do basically kind of turn into a destroyer. Probably not as powerful as a destroyer, but it'll have long-range, slow-moving missiles it can use to defend itself against capital ships. So there's that, and then I will get into these here in one moment, because this is something that's unique with this race, or this faction. And we will get into that as soon as we talk about the Vaygr flagship.
Flagship.
Now this right here is the Vaygr flagship. It can build every single ship except for the battlecruiser, which you need the shipyard for. And one thing that is really unique about this faction is on your flagship and on your shipyard, you can build your construction facilities. Now, one thing that is very one reason why the carriers are so cheap in this version is because you can't actually build the construction facilities on your carrier. That means if you build all of your construction facilities on your flagship and don't have a shipyard, you will only be able to build scouts. You won't have any facilities available because the carriers get all of their stuff from the mothership.
Flagship.
Now, another thing that's pretty cool is just because of that, all of your technologies in this mod you do not research. You actually build them as modules on your ships. So you can do that on your carrier. Like for instance, on this one, I built the fusion bomb module, which is required for the bombers, and the lancer beam, which is required for the lance fighters. So this Corvette, or this carrier, can build all of the fighters, but it can only build like the basic Corvette and can't build the frigates because it doesn't have the actual facility. We're on, I believe, this one?
Roger.
This carrier down here, I built the laser generator module, which is used to build the laser Corvette. So because of that, this carrier can't build the bombers and lance fighters, but it can build the laser Corvette. So you can use this as a way to specialize your production ships to build specific types of ships. Now, if I lose this ship, I won't be able to build the laser Corvettes, but I can easily go to this carrier and say, I don't want the fusion bomb module anymore. So I can click the fusion bomb module, which I believe is this one, retire it, and now I can build a laser generator module, which will allow it to build Corvettes. So that's kind of like an interesting strategy that you can use with all these. And then same with this carrier over here. I built the spear cannon, which is required to build a spear cannon frigate. The EW pod, which is required to build the EW frigate. So they're very self-explanatory. But for carriers, you can only have 2 modules, so you can only pick 2 technologies that you want to invest in. Vaygr, you can have up to 4.
Subsystem manufactured.
And you can have up to 4 of these modules, but you also have to make sure you leave room for the hyperspace module, because that's required too. Research module doesn't really matter. That doesn't require, well, it does say it takes 1 slot. But, oh wait, these are production modules, my bad. So yeah, you have 2. You actually have 3 built. Oh, because I built the infiltration pod on the Vaygr, because there wasn't enough room on the carriers. Which that's required to build your infiltrator frigate.
Receiving.
The shipyard, you can have up to 6. So you can have all of your technologies on your shipyard if you really want to. And again, the downside is if you invest all of your technology onto one ship and you lose it, you no longer can build any ships. You have to build more modules on your other ships. And if you lose your big production ships like your shipyard or mothership, and you don't have, you have all these facilities on your mothership and lose it, you won't be able to build anything, because then you have to try to get the shipyard going and rebuild all your facilities. So it is very important to make sure that your super capital or your big production level ships like your flagship and shipyard are well defended. Because also in this mod, they can't defend themselves. They do no damage. So your shipyard and your flagship have to have some sort of protection to protect them from an invasion. Hopefully all that makes sense. I'm trying to make this as informative as I can without like jumping all over the place or seeming like I'm jumping all over the place. But that's enough about the production stuff and how the research and stuff goes. We can take a look at the research real quick while I am talking about it. Because in this mod, unlike Homeworld 2, you don't actually research any ships. That's why you have the module system. If you want bombers, you have to build the plasma bomb module on one of your ships, and then you're able to build them. Your main research, all that does is increase the damage and the hull of your ships, which of course is very important. But you don't have like any of the special research. You do have one, the resource collectors, so you can repair your ships. But there's no like, build the capital ship, research destroyer, and now you can build destroyer for the rest of the game. Nope. As soon as you build your capital ship, you have the ability to make your destroyer. Just as long as you don't, lose that module. Okay, I think that's enough talking for now. Let's take a look at the two... Oh, no fly just ran in my eye. That's nice. The two, wait, fly. Sorry. The two platforms that we can make in this game. Or on this team. You have the clustered missile platform, which in this one is kind of a combination of the gun and missile platform from the Vaygr side on Homeworld 2. Let's see, stationary multi-purpose weapon platform, once deployed cannot move again, just like Homeworld 2. And ooh, this thing detects cloaked ships. I think that's different from the original Homeworld, or Homeworld 2. I don't think these actually detected cloaked ships before. But that's good to know. So that gives a pretty good reason to build your platforms in like secured areas, like over here for your harvesting areas. Build a couple of those so enemy doesn't sneak in. Good to know. But these are good against fighters and frigates. I thought it was a combination of a gun and missile platform, but I believe it's just a missile platform that has a combination of concussion missiles and heavy missiles. So it acts as both platforms. The concussion missiles are really fast and weak, so it's good against fighters, and the heavy fusion missiles are slow but powerful, so they're good against frigates. And platforms don't really have the health to go against anything larger than a frigate. And then the other one over here is another one that's from Homeworld 2, the Hyperspace Gate. So if any of you guys know how this works, basically you build two hyperspace gates, so like one here and then like one somewhere over here. You link them together, and then one... Ignore that. That was just a bottle. Luckily it was capped, so nothing got spilled. So if you link those two hyperspace gates together, then you can send anything in. It'll go through this gate, and then it'll pop out the other gate. And the big advantage of that is it's completely free. Because
flagship.
In Homeworld, if any of you guys don't know, hyperspacing anywhere with any ship costs RUs. Now we have a crap ton because I'm just, doing a video. But using these hyperspace gates, you can bring your entire group through it, and it'll also go through instantly. Because normally when you go through hyperspace, it takes about a minute for it to go through. And it doesn't matter where you hyperspace. If you hyperspace 5 feet in front of you or across the map, it takes a minute. That's just how it's always worked in Homeworld. Okay, and now we got just these guys to do, and then we'll be done. My throat's starting to hurt because I'm talking way too much. It's not used to doing all this stuff. So, for utilities, the Vaygr are very, very simple. We have your resource collector here.
Ready for orders.
All he does is go around and harvest his resources so you can spend it on building other ships. It can also be upgraded to repair, and of course it's a harvester, so it doesn't fight back, and it's also very weak. It doesn't have a whole lot of health, so if you like you're going to an area that you haven't actually explored and you don't know if the enemy is there, it's probably a good idea to escort your harvesters with some sort of, you know, fighter group or whatnot, just to protect them. It's probably not required, but I'm the type of person that likes to defend things, so it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. And then next we have our mobile refinery, which again, in this mod, the mobile refineries don't fight back. They don't have any weapons built on. Where in Homeworld 2, they had some very basic hull guns, so they probably could protect themselves against like 1 or 2 stray interceptor groups, but against a big invasion, they couldn't protect themselves. This one, they can't protect themselves at all, so it is very important to make sure your harvesting operations don't get raided. And the resource controller, its main, or mobile refinery, its main purpose is to dock the ships in, so they can unload their cargo that they got from harvesting the asteroids and go back to whatever they were doing. And now the very last ship we're going to look at, is the proximity sensor. This is, I believe, from Homeworld 2. Like I don't know if this is actually from Homeworld 2. I don't think it was. I don't think you could build proximity sensors in Homeworld 2 on the Vaygr side. But anyways, the proximity sensor's primary purpose is to sit in an area and look for cloaked ships. So I don't know how big the area is. I think it will actually show us. Is it really that big? Or is that something else? That's something else. So I don't exactly know how large it is, but it detects cloaked units within an area around the proximity sensor. And that's all it does. It's also a probe class, so it only moves once. So wherever you want it, you better make sure that it, you know, it's where it's supposed to be, because you have to blow it up and build a new one, or just build a new one if it's not the area you want it to be in. Now, one thing you'll notice over here is on the Vaygr side, you cannot build probes. There's no sensor distortion probe, there's no like basic probe. The only way you can scout with the Vaygr side is the scout ship, and that's it. So hopefully you guys can utilize the scouts a lot so that you can, you know, find the enemy and create a strategy to defeat them. That's your main source of reconnaissance. Anyways, guys, that's it. That's every single ship that the Vaygr has. It's kind of the best description I can give you. If I would have to rank the difficulty for the Vaygr, I would say medium. They're more difficult than the Hygarans, but because of the whole, you know, module thing for their technology, and the fact that the mothership and shipyard are the only things that can hold the facilities. But they are a fun race, and it's more of a defensive play style than Hygarans, which Hygarans is kind of classic. You can use them aggressively, you can use them defensively. They're kind of flexible, where the Vaygr kind of values more of a defensive strategy than an aggressive strategy. So I like them. They're probably I don't know if they would be my favorite race to play. It's probably close up there. They're fun to play, but probably based off of my play style, this race or this faction fits me the best, so it probably would be the most fun to play. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoy this. Please leave a like if you did. If you like what I do, consider subscribing, and if you want to see more of me, I did start a second channel where we are playing games that are not related to Homeworld. Right now we're playing Tales of Arise. I'm starting to I've been playing the crap out of that for the past couple of weeks, so I might as well just, you know, record it, because I talk to myself anyways playing it. Just record it and upload it. So if you guys want to check that out, that'll be in the video description as well. But anyways, other than that, please leave a like if you like this video, subscribe if you enjoy what I do, and I will see you guys later. Until then, this is Captain Soban signing out.
The Vaygr have arrived. Emergency hyperspace procedures initiated.